Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. The last few videos I've been talking about singles a fair bit. And this video, it is back to my bread and butter, which is sealed Pokemon investing. I'm going to crunch some numbers, or I have crunched some numbers on depth to a Pokemon card set. If you're new to the hobby, if you've been around it for a while, if you're into the investing scene, you're thinking, what does he mean by depth of a set? Essentially what I mean by depth of the set is how deep is the chase cards inside the set? So it's not just a one-hit wonder set. It's got a lot of depth of chase cards. And before we touch on that a little bit more, two quick things. One, the Aussie rules, or the AFL season if you're an Australian, is about to take off, and it is Hawthorn's year if you're watching in an Australian and you follow it. Hawks are going to be absolutely flying this year. If you're an American or you're from the UK and you're thinking, what is he talking about, AFL? I'm sure you've probably seen it, you know, the stupid one where we kick and jump and mark and handball and knock each other flat. That's AFL, so it's going to be Hawks' year. Second thing, mate and I opened some cards going back a fortnight, and I've been meaning to share this for ages, and we went bang. We pulled Crown Zenith, Gold Giratina. Bang, what a chase that was. The number one hit from Crown Zenith. We opened a fair bit actually. I opened a bit of Fusion Strike, a bit of Chilling Rain, a couple of Evolving Skies. Of course, Evolving Cries got absolutely nothing. A bit of Scarlet and Violet as well, a bit of Paldea Evolved, a bit of Paradox Rift, a bit of Temporal Forces, and then went bang with Crown Zenith. And Crown Zenith is just so fun to open. Anyway, let's move back onto the topic at hand. Those were the two things I wanted to share though. And this is depth to a chase, or depth to a Pokemon card set. And what I mean by the difference between a one-hit wonder and depth, let's go back a while to Sun and Moon era, right? Burning Shadows come out, and it was carried extremely heavily, and it still is carried extremely heavy by one card, and that's the Rainbow Charizard. And look, that can only do so much for a set. Having one big hitting chase card can only do so much. A set really needs character, a set really needs depth, and it really needs a multitude of hits and chase cards to be successful. The stronger those chase cards, or the more expensive those chase cards, the more expensive the sealed product's going to go, and the better the set's going to perform long term. A strong, big hitting chase card, particularly if it grades well, so what that means is, you know, say it's $400 raw, but it's $2,000 a PSA 10, so it's got a good multiplier effect as a grading opportunity, also adds weight to the set. And Burning Shadows, for example, from Sun and Moon, come out of the gate really, really hot. And look, Twilight Masquerade is a way, way better set than Burning Shadows, but it sort of reminds me of that. Twilight Masquerade's come out of the gate hot because it's got one really strong chase card, which is of course the Greninja. Now I'm not comparing the two as sets. I'm just saying that with one strong chase card, it can come out of the gate really strong and slow down eventually, and that's what happened with Burning Shadows. Everything else that has more depth, even if it doesn't have as strong a chase card, has now overtaken Burning Shadows. You know, even sets like Celestial Storm, Lost Thunder, like those mid-tier Sun and Moon sets, have overtaken it. It's just the way it goes. So what I've done for today's video, I've compiled a lot of information. So I've gone, and this is based on depth to a set. So when I think of depth, I think it needs to have a pretty good hitting chase card, and maybe a couple of them. The more the merrier, of course. Then how many cards are over $50, how many cards are over $20, and how many cards are over $10 US raw. That is the depth of chase. If a set drops off really quickly, like you might have one chase card, you know, 4 or 5 cards over $20 and a couple over $10, you think, well, hold on, there's actually not much depth to this. And one thing I've really noticed with Scarlet and Violet, and it's going to be too long a video if I go into this, is the depth of Scarlet and Violet hits now, this is total depth above $10, is actually far exceeding Sword and Shield sets. Even the strongest Sword and Shield sets. Like, it's crazy how much depth we've had. And look, this ties back to singles. I've been in lots of videos of how much, you know, illustration rares, for argument's sake, have been pumped up. And, you know, cards that were $2 cards becoming $18 cards, and, you know, like 900% growth, and, you know, crazy numbers from illustration rares from Scarlet and Violet. But let's jump straight into it. So base set from Scarlet and Violet, total hits above $50, 2. Total hits above $20, 8. Depth, so total number of chase cards raw in US dollars above $10, there's 20 of them now in Scarlet and Violet base. These numbers have just been absolutely pumping up. It's crazy how many there are. The next set, Paldea Evolved. And just so you know, all these chase cards and all these videos here, these are straight off the Collector app. If you don't have it, there's a link in the description to download it because it is the sponsor of today's video. It's a great app. I've been using it for ages. You can see how easy I'm scanning through it here when I go through these sets with total number of chase cards. It's super easy app to use. You can go all modern sets. You can see total hits from top to bottom. You can add your whole collection in. You can see total percentage gains. So if you're an investor, you know, it's really easy to see your daily gains, your monthly gains, your quarterly gains, how much money and profit you've made overall. Super easy app to use. Next set, Paldea Evolved. There's actually 3 cards above $50. So only one more than base set. But there's 18 cards above $20. So that's 10 more cards than base set. And the big number, there is 40 cards in Paldea Evolved above $10 US. That's double the amount that there is in Scarlet Violet base. And look, these can be a good predictor to investing in a sealed product. For me, the stronger the depth of chase and also the stronger the hits inside the set, so you know your total hits above $50, the stronger there's such a correlation between how well that booster box or elite trainer box will perform long term. Of course, there's things that come into the equation, you know, how much it gets printed, etc. But you know, print runs will also squash down in some cases, you know, the price of singles. So there's definitely a correlation here between depth and total booster box price. Third set, of course, Obsidian Flames. There's only 1 card above $50. There's 5 cards above $20. This is weaker so far than Scarlet and Violet base. And only 10 cards above $10 US. So far, Obsidian Flames is a lot weaker when we look at it in this perspective than S&V base. And you know what? If you want my money, you know, if someone would ask me in 5 years' time, what's going to be the more expensive booster box? Base set, Obsidian Flames, or Paldea Evolved? I'm going to say Paldea Evolved at the top. I'm going to say it now and call it. Scarlet and Violet base will be a stronger booster box than Obsidian Flames. It'll be more expensive in 5 years. 151, the next set to come out. 8 cards above $50. So far eclipses Paldea Evolved. There is 19 cards above $20. So that's 1 more than Paldea Evolved. And there's 32 above $10. So if you look at it that way, Paldea Evolved has more depth above $10 than 151, but 151's got more heavy hitters, 8 cards above $50 US raw. That's pretty strong. That's going to perform factored in and coupled with the nostalgia factor. Like this set is going to perform so well long term, whether you've got an ultra premium collection, a Pokemon Center Elite Trainer box. I mean, they're going to be the best 2 items. And then your standard Elite Trainer box, booster bundles, anything 151 is going to perform incredibly well. There's so much nostalgia attached to that set. It's such a good Pokemon card set. Could it have been better with Master Ball Reverse Holos? Yes. Could it have been better with the Mew and Mewtwo promos that you get out of the UPC being injected into the main set? Yes. But it's still one hell of a Pokemon card set. Next one, Paradox Rift. 3 cards above $50 US, so the same as Paldea Evolved. 14 above $20. And 36 cards above $10. And look, this is where that correlation that I was talking about between illustration rares and depth comes into play. So Paldea Evolved and Paradox Rift both have a lot of depth when it comes to illustration rares. And if you look through the artwork, they've actually both got phenomenal artwork all throughout that illustration rare range. Next one, Fates, Paldean Fates. There is 3 cards above $50. 7 cards above $20 and 16 cards above $10. So if you look at it that way, yes, it's got 3 absolutely mega hitters, particularly that Bubble Mew. And Bubble Mew will carry it. Look, I said that one chase card can't carry a set. If all Paldean Fates had was the Bubble Mew, you would say it's still so strong it'll carry the set a little bit, but it's not good enough to carry the set as a whole. But Paldean Fates has the Charizard, it has the Gardevoir, it has the shiny set, the shiny Volt sort of backing it up. Doesn't have the depth of Paldea Evolved, but that Bubble Mew will help spur it along. Next one out, Temporal Forces. Here's a big one. 6 cards above $50. So it's pushing 151 territory when it comes to cards above $50. 15 cards above $20 and 29 cards above $10. So a lot of depth in Temporal Forces. And this is actually really interesting to compare to Twilight Masquerade, right? So remember, Temporal Forces had 6 cards above $50. Twilight Masquerade has 4. And if you ask most people, you know, what's the better set? Most people would probably just go, oh yeah, Twilight Masquerade, it's got the Greninja, that's a pumping card. Okay, but then what about the rest of it? What about the depth to the set? You've got 15 cards in Temporal Forces above $10, but only above $20, but only 12 cards in Twilight Masquerade above $20. So again, Temporal Forces beats it there. You've got 23 cards above $10 compared to 29 cards in Temporal Forces above $10. So you could argue that Temporal Forces has more depth than Twilight Masquerade. However, Twilight Masquerade does have that big, heavy hitter. And there's nothing to say that things can't change. Don't forget that. We're very fresh into Scarlet and Violet. Some of these hits will make moves. Some of these, you know, $60 cards or $90 cards from Temporal Forces, for argument's sake, what's to say they're not going to become $200 raw hits? What's to say Greninja isn't going to pull back to $250? Don't know. Like, I'm not getting out the magic 8-ball and saying that's going to happen, but you never know what's going to happen. Sometimes what seemed like a weak card at the start, and probably the best example is, you know, Team Ups Latios and Latios, that alternate art, the beautiful card. It was not a big hit. It was not a heavy hitter when it first came out. And look at the prices now. It's like, what, $1,000 raw or whatever it is, $800 raw? Crazy, crazy prices. Next set, Shrouded Fable. Only 2 cards above $50, 15 cards above $20, and 23 cards above $10. So surprisingly though, it actually has the same depth when it comes to cards over $10 than Twilight Masquerade. Same thing, it's those illustration rares. They're just pulling sets up. Next set out, Stellar Crown, 3 cards above $50, only 8 cards above $20, and 13 cards above $10. It just pips Obsidian Flames, but it's not that strong a set when it comes to depth and total chase cards. Surprisingly not, even though it had a lot of hype and a lot of you know, purchasing power when it first came out, but it's not that strong. Surging Sparks, we're getting towards the pointy end here. 7 cards above $50, 14 cards above $20, and 29 cards above $10. So same thing, it's actually quite similar to Temporal Forces when you look at those numbers all combined. 29 and 29 cards above $10, 14 cards and 15 cards above $20, and 6 cards and 7 cards above $50. However, keep in mind, Surging Spark's total set value does eclipse Temporal Forces by about $600 or $700, and that's coming from the main chasers. That's coming from the Pikachu, it's coming from the Latios, so it does have that heavy hitting end wrapped up a bit more compared to Temporal Forces. And finally, these are the numbers that will just blow you out of the water. And look, print numbers are going to change this, but at the moment, all we can go off is what we've got. And Prismatic Evolutions, 29 cards above $50. 29. It's the same number that Surging Sparks has above $10. 47 cards above $20. And the big number, this will blow you away, and it blew me away when I wrote these numbers down. 71 cards above $10 US raw. 71. Master Ball Hollows are in there. Special Illustration Rares are in there, of course. Crazy, crazy. 71 cards above $10. So what does all this tell us? What does it all say about, you know, what's the point of even talking about all those numbers? Depth, and I'll repeat sort of the argument from the start of the video, depth is really important to a Pokemon card set. So if all you've got is one heavy hitting chase card, it'll help. Don't get me wrong, it'll help. It'll help pull a box up early. But long term, a set needs more character, it needs more depth, and it needs a stronger set of chase cards than just one heavy hitter at the front leading the pack. You need depth to a set. And the stronger the depth, and particularly those cards above $50, like look at Evolving Skies, that has so many cards above $50, that depth is gonna, you can't escape it. There's just such a clear correlation. Evolving Skies is the clearest example. Team Up's one hell of an example. Go back to any era of Pokemon cards, total set value, total chase cards, total depth of chase cards, that will have the most expensive booster box. And print numbers almost don't come into play as it gets older, because as it gets older, it's going to get rarer. More of them get ripped, more of them get lost, more of them get opened, more of them get sold. It doesn't come into play eventually. These numbers are really, really important when it comes to making a decision into what elite trainer box you're going to invest in and what booster box you're going to invest in. I'm Michael, this is PokeOz. Catch everyone next time.